Okay, this here is our material buyback area. One of the main things we had in mind when we designed this facility was that we wanted convenience to be considered, because we realized that people generally have to drive some distance to get here to recycle. And the last thing that we want to happen is for somebody to sit in a half-hour or 45-minute long line to wait to recycle one bag of cans. So we have this drive-through setup. How it works is somebody will pull in, they trip an air bell, and we also have closed-circuit camera and TV monitor to alert our staff that somebody is here to do some recycling. Once they pull in, the first thing we do is greet them and determine what type of material they have to recycle. The majority of what we get through our buyback area is aluminum cans, which is why we have this aluminum can processing setup. This is basically a two-stage system. The first stage is we run the cans up a conveyor belt and they drop down into a basket. And this basket has a scale hooked up to it. As the cans drop into the basket, the scale starts recording weight. Once we get done weighing their cans, we of course go over to the cashier's window and let the cashier know how many pounds worth of cans they have, and then we pay them accordingly. Once we fill that basket all the way up, the second stage on the system is a baling system. So what we do is open up a trap door on the basket, the cans drop down onto a secondary conveyor belt where they are transported back to the baler. The big difference between this baler and our other one is that this one involves a little bit of hands-on effort to get the bale made. What our employees have to do is they have to take this wire, they feed it down into the grooves in the top of the baler, and they tie the bale together by hand. Each one of these bales weighs approximately 600 to 700 pounds and contains an average of 16,500 cans per bale. When somebody has materials other than aluminum cans, we use a different method to weigh this material. We have certified floor scales at our facility. So a lot of times what people are bringing in is copper plumbing pipe, old electrical wire, scrap aluminum, things of this nature. So what we do is we lay it right on the floor scale, it records the weight, and then we go over and report that weight to the cashier. Now if somebody brings in a large amount of material, what we use are these gray rolling carts. And you can see here on the end where they have a number on them. That number is what we know the weight of this rolling cart to be. So what we'll do is wheel the cart up on the floor scale with their material in the cart. You can see right here, of course, it does give the readout of weight. What we do is we take the total weight with material and cart and all, subtract the 61 pounds that we know that the cart weighs, and then pay them accordingly. So if somebody's load were to weigh 124 pounds, of course, in this case we would be paying them for 63 pounds. Some of the materials that we buy in addition to non-ferrous or non-magnetic metals are wet cell batteries, which are basically car batteries, truck batteries, ATV batteries, or if you have little kids at home that drive Power Wheels, they run off the same type of batteries, and we do pay for these. We do accept steel here, but we don't pay for it. The reason why we accept it is because we do recycle it, and it is a great alternative to it going to the landfill. Up here on our current price board, you can see what our current prices are. Our prices ebb and flow with the stock exchange. They may change on a day-to-day basis, they may change on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. It just depends on how the stock market is trading. This area is what is known as our tipping floor. Of course, it is aptly named because the trucks back in, they tip their back end up and dump their materials out. Here at Adams Brown Recycling, we have a two-stream recycling system, and that's basically industry jargon for two groups. The first group is what we call commingled containers, and in this group goes plastic bottles, jugs, and jars, steel food cans, glass bottles, jugs, and jars, and aluminum cans. Our second stream or group is what is called mixed paper fibers, and this group includes basically any type of paper, excluding paper that has a wax finish, such as a juice carton or a milk carton. Right here we have our conveyor belt system. We have one also for the commingled container pile. And basically how this works is our employees hand load material onto the conveyor belt where it's transported 17 feet above the ground to our sort line, where it is sorted by hand into smaller groups. At the same time they're sorting out things that are going onto the conveyor belt, They are also separating out things that come into our boxes that we cannot recycle. On this side right here is where the paper sorting takes place. You can see where the paper comes up off the conveyor belt and drops down onto a secondary conveyor belt. Alright, I want to tell you a little bit about how we sort this material out. The first set of chutes at the very end of this setup are for regular garbage that we cannot recycle. The next set of chutes on either side of the line are where we drop magazines or other magazine type materials such as old phone books or catalogs. This next set of chutes right here is where cardboard goes. And then all the other newspaper and other types of paper ride down to the final chute. Over on this side here is our commingled container sort. We sort these out into smaller groups as well. The first group is what we call HDPE number 2 natural plastic, which is basically milk jugs. The next chute is for number 1 PET plastic, which is basically your soda pop bottles, water bottles, and other drinking containers. The next group is HDPE number 2 pigmented plastic, which is the same type of plastic the milk jugs are made of, but this type is colored, and that includes things like plastic coffee cans, shampoo and conditioner bottles, things of this nature. For steel food can sorting, we have a magnetic conveyor belt that picks up the cans as they ride underneath the conveyor belt. And then down here on the very end is where we sort out our glass. We sort the glass out by color. We sort it out into groups that are clear, green, and brown glass. And we also sort aluminum cans out here. They have their own little conveyor belt which lines up back on the back side of our sort system. You can see down here the after effect of the sorting that takes place on the sort line. You can see how the material ends up separated into these different stalls. All of this material is built up in the stalls. Once we have enough material to make a bale, we send it down to the baler. This is the conveyor belt that transports the different materials down to our baling system where they end up getting baled. Right now what they're doing, as opposed to dropping the newspaper down into the newspaper stall, is running it directly into the baler on the conveyor belt. When we start making this material into bales, which is how we sell this material, what we do on the paper side is we open these doors that have a chain on them. We raise them up and push the material onto a conveyor belt. On the container side of things, it's all pretty well gravity based, where we can pull a door open and the material just falls out onto the conveyor belt. This here is the baling system. Of course, it is driven by hydraulic presses, and that's what creates the compaction. The very cool thing about this system is that it's completely automated, even bailing out its own wire as the bale is being pushed out of the baler. Very similar to hay bales, our bales are much larger. On the high end of things, they weigh anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 pounds, so it is much larger than a standard hay bale. Once we have enough bales to constitute a semi-truck load, we sell it out to companies who actually make it into the brand new things.